Hi, I was inspired to look at some of my old stories yesterday. So this goes back to 2014 and will be helpful to get you off to sleep, although it's not very cheerful. It's called Winter Wonder. Sweat poured down Jack's back. It'd been a busy morning, but he hoped effort would be worth it. People started to arrive and it began to feel like the Christmas vibe. So outside on the balcony they toasted to Christmas past. Serving up the turkey, he smiled to himself. It wasn't a typical Christmas. This was the best time ever. No family to argue with, no inane conversation. They exchanged gifts after lunch. Sophie bought him a new pair of swimming trunks. He put on his sunglasses and went down to the lake and jumped straight in. The water was striking in its coolness, enough to make him feel awake, even with a bellyful. The others jumped in and joined him. He thought about the contrast with last Christmas, sitting at the bedside of his girlfriend. He'd been driving when a car had come out of nowhere and hit them side on. He'd felt so guilty walking away with not even a scratch. Tanya's chest rose and fell with the rhythm of the ventilator, and he wondered if she would ever wake up. Somehow he'd pulled himself away from that life, tired of the daily visits to intensive care and no visible response. He bought a one-way ticket, reinvented himself. Here he was carefree Jack, no worries, his favourite phrase. He was pulled away from his reverie by Sophie waving his phone at him. He swam back and dried himself off and checked his messages, listening to the electronic voice. He dropped his phone and then dropped to his knees. Sophie looked on in shock. He gradually remembered where he was and pulled himself together and got dressed and was pacing the house. What should he do? Stay here and be carefree Jack, living the life he'd always dreamed? Or go home? But where was home these days? Tanya had woken up exactly 1 year and 1 day after the accident. There'd been no warning, no prior signs of improvement for a whole year. He felt sick. Would she hate him if she knew he'd left? At the airport, he tried to pick a present, something that said, "I love you," and I didn't really give up. He settled on a teddy, held it for the entire flight. Back in London, he zipped up his jacket. He hadn't missed the cold. He took a taxi straight to the hospital and inhaled deeply before entering the ward. He saw her sister and mother by Tanya's bedside. They smiled and said hello. Tanya looked up. Her brow furrowed and she said her first words since waking. "Who are you?" His heart sank. Maybe this wasn't home anymore. The teddy, a stark reminder of the contrast between his earlier celebrations. He sat by her bed and held her hand. Sorry, that's not very cheery. Thanks for listening.